We have what people are referring to in Baltimore City now as a new normal, which I find, as a lifelong resident of Baltimore City, to be a punch in the gut. The new normal were 301 murders by firearm last year. 900 people were shot and survived. That means, I'm not very good at math, but I was told that 1 in 500 residents of Baltimore City were victims of handgun violence last year. 1 in 500. SB 638, I understand, I respect the chairman's criticism of the language, but I do ask you to consider a shifting or some modest reallocation of discretion toward the prosecutor. I personally pride myself on the discretion and decisions I've made in my career to seek mandatory penalties, and I speak very highly for the men and women who are entrusted by the state's attorneys to exercise that discretion. They'll do it in a judicious manner if you allow us to do so. I apologize for going over.
Yeah, this is an interesting dilemma, because what I hear this panel boils down to is the judges that the Senate advises and consents on and who are given 15-year terms, we can't trust them to exercise their discretion appropriately. Therefore, we should fix that by providing prosecutors who are elected by the people at popular elections for 4 years to somehow exercise greater discretion. And I'm just missing this one completely. I'm sorry. I have great respect for this panel and the people on it. But if I can't trust an appointed judge who goes through, picked by the governors, approved by the Senate, from a select panel of highly qualified people to exercise proper discretion, how do we fix that by saying, let's let state's attorneys who are popularly elected for 4-year terms and who seem to turn over rather quickly in the city fix this problem? It's just, it's tough for me to see that. And what I would really like to hear is, why aren't the judges, what we're hearing from the panel is, we got a serious problem here. You need to lock these people up. What is wrong? Why aren't they imposing the sentences that you all obviously feel is warranted? What's the problem here?
I can't speak to that. I'm not going to speak on an individual case because I don't think it's fair, because I don't believe there's a member of the judiciary here. But I think the pendulum has swung too far with respect to handgun violation toward an emphasis on treatment. And Chairman Davis reiterated, spoke to that. The unlawful or criminal possession of a firearm is not driven by drug addiction. It simply isn't. And I can tell you, I could bring people in here to testify as to how passionately I feel about alternatives to incarceration myself, restorative justice. But due to the magnitude of this crime, I see a person in a car with a loaded handgun, excluding someone coming from a range or a Walmart, as somebody potentially who may, if not stopped and prosecute, shoot up a street corner, because that's what we're faced with, Senator, in Baltimore City.
I really appreciate the challenges you all have, and I think from sitting on this committee, I think the challenges that we have is the old adage that tough cases make for bad laws. And Baltimore City is a really tough case, and there's a big state out there. And somehow we have to make sure that in crafting these aren't local laws, so in somehow crafting a one-size-fits-all here that deals with your problems, that we don't end up sort of unleashing the torrent around the state. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm just really at a loss on this one.
Thank you for being here. Last week I made a comment that there were 350 slayings in Baltimore, and I was corrected by somebody from Baltimore City saying, no, it was only 343 or 300, whatever. It was a lot. And you started your conversation with us today. The killers are between 16 and 21 years old.
Yeah.
This bill's not going to touch them at all. It's already a crime for a slinger to have any type of firearm in his belt. I mean, it's illegal. And they're not going to get a mandatory minimum. We know that. They're juveniles. This bill's not going to do anything. And the problem that I have, and I'm not lecturing anybody.
Not taking that way.
We got all of these bills. We got 400 people here today on gun bills. Lawful people that own guns don't kill people. It's the people that buy them in the alley for $25 that kill people. And these bills don't do anything to stop that. And it just doesn't do anything. They're going to keep killing people in Baltimore City until there's a systemic change in Baltimore City. So,
Mr. Senator, I want to just briefly answer that. Before I became a prosecutor in April of 2000, I was a defense attorney for 16 years. And even young criminal offenders are not that irrational. You know, they understand, nobody wants to go to jail. No one does. And although I do agree, an incarceration of 1 year, 12 months with perhaps 60 days off for good behavior is not going to effect a sea change in Baltimore City or in Chicago the city of Chicago had 101 murders in the first 2 months of this year. 101. You're right, I totally agree with you. It's not a sea change, but I submit to you it's a step in the right direction due to the gravity of harm that is befalling people in major American cities, particularly Baltimore, due to handguns in the hands of wrong people.